Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gardner, a year ago, I asked you about Amtrak's proposed annual operating loss. You told me it would be over $800 million. What's the new projected annual operating loss?
About 670.
670. And last year, you also confirmed that according to Amtrak's 5-year plan for fiscal year 2022 and through 2027, that Amtrak expects to lose $1 billion every year. Has your expected loss increased due to inflation?
No, I think from 2020, our 5-year plan beginning 2022 anticipated higher losses than we in fact have experienced. We've been able to drive that number down last year and this year, so we're continuing to drive that number down below that.
To what point?
Well, again, our goal here is at the end of the decade to reach a sort of position of break even on the train operating side of the business, recognizing that there's a big portion of operating expense associated with the capital work. So we'll be able to help you see that, but our goal is to continue to make progress. We're setting our targets for next year here soon, so that will be something we work on with the board. But again, year-over-year improvement from last year, and we'll continue to make improvement next year in reducing the loss.
Okay. Your all's executives were paid between $500,000 and $780,000. On top of that, the executives received bonuses last year, at least $200,000. I don't blame you, I blame the board. I mean, it's the contract you signed up under, but I'm wondering, how do I explain folks in East Tennessee who are currently struggling, paying $600 more a month out of pocket just for living expenses through all this bad inflation, that executives of a company that isn't even profitable get annual bonuses worth more than some of their homes? Mr. Caution.
Yeah, I assume, Congressman, you're addressing that question to me.
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
I was starting to respond to this in part to your colleague's question, which is to say that, as I mentioned, I've been on the board since 2010, and I can only answer that question within the context of having seen the before and after picture. I would say that Amtrak, for decades, probably 40 decades, suffered from both a chronic underinvestment in capital in a capital-intensive business and, frankly, weak management that allowed many practices to develop at the company that were not best practices. I've spent nearly 40 years in the private sector, much of it with very successful companies. I know what good looks like. It did not exist when we showed up. We intentionally revised the compensation program at the company because at the time the company had a very, very lucrative pension and post-retirement plan that would have cost us more than triple of what the incentive compensation plan had cost. We are pained, sir, at the amount of bonuses that we're paying at the incentive comp. We understand the anxiety that it creates here on the Hill and other places with a company like Amtrak that is serving this public purpose. But I also will tell you that an operating company that has to compete with employees, with the freight railroads, the airlines, the hospitality business, the engineering companies, all of whom pay their employees far more than we do, we have no chance of succeeding without bringing in a team and putting them on the field that have an ability to do it. This team brought Amtrak for the first time in its 50-year history to within $27 million in fiscal 19 to breaking even. That has never even come close. And in 2020, had the pandemic not occurred, we would have been in black ink on an operating level for the first time ever. Now, all of the headwinds that Mr. Gardner described to you that are creating a struggle for us to get back, we will get through them, and we will be back in black ink. And I will tell you that the board's objective for how quickly to get there is even quicker than I am assuming that is otherwise being considered.
I appreciate that. I'm going to run out of time, but the one thing that is crystal clear to me is that the American taxpayers are being forced to fund you all, and you have, for instance, you have a subpar dining experience, which ironically contributes to Amtrak's operating deficit, all while these executives make $200,000 bonuses. To me, that is unacceptable, and I yield the remainder of my time, Mr.
Thank you. I now recognize